welcome to HR Today. I'm your host, Maya. We have a very special show planned for you today. We'll be exploring post-traumatic stress disorder, or commonly known as PTSD, and the effect it has on young college students, both at school and in the workplace. Before I get to our first guest tonight, let's talk a little about what is PTSD, you may ask? Well, post-traumatic stress disorder is brought on by any traumatic event that someone can either experience or witness themselves. It is something that approximately 7.8% of Americans will experience at some point in their life, and about 5.2 million Americans will experience it in any given year. And our first guest tonight, Maddie, is a freshman college student who suffers from the symptoms of PTSD that have been caused by a car accident one summer evening. Now please help me welcome our first guest, Maddie. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, how are you?
Not too bad, actually. So, you're a freshman in college?
Yep.
How's that going for you so far?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Gets a little stressful.
Yep, I know all about that one. So you're enjoying classes, first semester going well?
Yeah, I'm getting through everything pretty easily so far.
That's always good. How's the transition from being away from home now?
It's a little difficult at times, but I'm managing.
Yeah. Alright, well, so we have you on the show here for your post-traumatic stress that you have experienced for a while. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Alright, it all started when I was a freshman in high school. We were driving to a 4th of July party at one of my uncle's house, and we were at a stoplight, and out of nowhere, just some guy non-stop just smashes in the back of our car.
Oh, wow.
All I just remember hearing was a loud smash, and then I blacked out. And then in the middle of it, I just remember waking up, and my dad was sideswiping cars in the middle of it. I guess I screamed, I don't remember, but
okay.
yeah. And then we went through an intersection. How we managed not to get hit is insane. But as the car finally came to a stop, my dad gets out of the car, opens the back door where I was sitting, and he pulls me out, which I'm hysterical at this point. I have no idea what's going on, and I actually suffered from a concussion. I smashed my face against the side of the window. Yeah, and the car, actually, the back of the car, where I was sitting in right behind the passenger seat, and that side was smashed more in the back, which is insane. My door actually was popped off a little bit because of impact.
Oh, wow.
Our car was totaled.
Yikes. That's definitely a pretty scary event to go through.
Yeah.
How did you handle that afterwards?
Afterwards, it was ridiculous. I have trouble with loud noises because we had gone to my uncle's house and he was blowing out fireworks as 4th of July.
How great. Fireworks after an accident.
Yeah, we had to leave the party because I was freaking out.
Yeah. Yikes. Well, so that happened in your freshman year of high school. How did you handle that after going through high school?
It was rough. I was very paranoid. I still am to this day. I get very paranoid very easily. Any type of loud noise, I startle, I'll jump around a little bit.
That's definitely understandable. Have you had any lasting effects? You still jump around with the loud noise? Is there anything else that still affects you?
Nothing too dramatic, just mostly the loud noises.
Just get a little bit jumpy.
Yeah.
Hey, what about now that you're in college and you're away from home, away from comfort zone and everything? Is it worse? Is it getting better?
Honestly, it's a little worse because when you're around your family, they understand, and when you're sitting in class and someone just drops a book or something and you're jumping around.
So you're a freshman now. You live on campus, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a roommate. Now, how does your roommate handle that?
Well, I actually was lucky enough to have a roommate that knew me from my hometown, and she came here with me, so she knows everything that's happened, but she's pretty good about being quiet and knowing what brings me to my breaking points. So that always helps get some support from somebody.
Well, that must make your transition a little bit easier, having someone that knew you back then and that can now help you through things here 1 year away from your comfort zone with your family, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot easier. Very helpful.
Well, that's good. And I understand that you play softball here too. All right. How does that go? Does that ever spark any of your?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the loud noises, I mean, I do get a little startled, but it's a lot easier because I've been doing it for a while now after it happened, so I'm kind of used to it in that area.
Well, that's good. Good that you're able to put it aside. Almost, it's helping you move through and move past it.
I've always had coaches and teammates that have been super supportive about it.
Well, that's great. Did your roommate play as well?
Yes.
That helps even more with it, doesn't it?
Exactly, because she backs me up and supports me with it.
That's
I have to
awesome.
explain it to people.
Yeah, you have that support there that can help you if you can't quite explain it.
Exactly.
They know, so it must make it just that much easier. Yeah.
Exactly.
Since you're away from home, do you work?
I do actually. I am a hostess at Olive Garden.
Oh, all right. How's that?
It's going pretty good. I actually have to work during quiet hours, and because of I can't be around the kitchen and stuff because there's always glasses breaking.
Yeah.
That'll trigger.
Yeah. So that's nice though, because I do know that technically post-traumatic stress is considered a disability that they have to make the reasonable accommodations. So they work with you well on that?
Yeah, they do. I actually, because lunch is mostly the busiest hours, so I'll work more so towards either earlier in the morning or later on at night when there's not as many people there and it's more calm.
Oh, that's good. Okay, well, let's go to work from our sponsors, I guess, while we get our guests back.
When a long day of classes turns into a long night of homework, what does Maddie turn to get her through the night? Vanilla Coke.
You okay, good?
Yeah, I'm good now.
All right. Well, welcome back. All right. So as you said, your family's a big support system for you, and your roommate, your teammates, all that. Is there anyone else that really you find a very supportive backbone that helps you get through?
Definitely one of my biggest influences has to be my psychiatrist.
Oh, really? Well, it just so happens we have him here tonight.
No way.
Yep. All right. So please help us welcome Chris.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Alrighty. So, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm getting through the day.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yep,
Day's
so-
almost over. At
Thank
least we
God.
hope, right?
So, as Maddie saying, you're one of her biggest influences. You're very supportive. You've been helping Maddie get through the tough times and everything. Is there any, symptoms or anything that you're still trying to help her with?
One common symptom that occurs pretty often now has to be the flashbacks. There's times where she'll come into me one day, be totally fine. The next day, it's totally different. She's gone through a flashback. Something has triggered her memory and caused her to remember the accident, and it scares her. It really does.
I can imagine. Is there any other things that maybe have gotten better but still kind of get to her?
I'd say some common ones that don't show up as often now. She's gotten better of not avoiding situations that remind her of it. That's one way she's trying to cope with it. She used to avoid sitting in the back seats of cars. She would end up walking places if she had to ride in the back seat of a car. She's getting better with that though. She's not as on guard. She's not looking for, not looking for things to go wrong now. She's staying more positive, which is always a good thing.
That definitely is. We saw her still gets a little jumpy and all, but that happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen, but we're slowly trying to get that out of the way.
No, okay, so you've worked with other people with this disorder and everything.
Yes.
Is there any other symptoms that are quite common that come along with PTSD as well, that maybe Maddie hasn't, developed, but other people usually do?
The jumpiness is one that usually happens a lot. One that she hasn't displayed is withdrawing herself from people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very common one.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest relief points is support from people.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are withdrawing themselves from other people, they're not able to get that support that they need to try to move on. That's basically it.
Really? Okay. So, we know that Maddie's was caused from a car accident. Is there any other, what else can cause this to happen? What else makes it?
Basically, it varies from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
Any type of event that causes some sort of trauma in each different person. I mean, one person it could be the car accident. Another person could have been in the proximity of a bomb explosion. A big example is veterans returning from war.
Mm-hmm.
The danger and circumstances that they're put in just cause so much stress that they come back not exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. And it can take them years to recover from this?
It can take them years, sometimes they don't even fully recover.
Mm-hmm.
In others it never really shows up. It might show up a year or two down the road.
Okay.
Sometimes it just takes a certain trigger to trigger it if it ever does.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean it varies from person to person.
Okay. So, how common would you say this really is?
People don't think it's as common. It's definitely not as common in civilians. It's
Mm-hmm.
more common in soldiers. However, you find that we have found that the younger you are,
Mm-hmm.
the more susceptible you are to
Okay.
PTSD. Your brain just isn't quite developed enough to be able to handle the situation. And in Maddie's case, being as young as she was, it took a little bit for it to trigger, but
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't able to comprehend what was going on, and that was a big factor of what caused it.
Okay. When we're speaking with Maddie, so that her work allows her to work, they accommodate her, letting her work in not as busy hours.
Yeah.
What other accommodations have you seen businesses make?
Certain businesses, like when people are in cubicles,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen companies rearrange an employee's cubicle so that they're facing a door, or they're facing outward toward people instead of being tucked inside the cubicle. If this isn't possible, I've seen companies put up mirrors for their employees.
Oh, wow.
So they can actually be focused on their work and happen to see somebody coming up from behind if they're easily startled.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Sometimes putting an employee into their own office where they can shut a door and be away from loud noises, if
Mm-hmm.
that's a symptom of theirs. That's another way that they can accommodate employees. Giving
Okay.
employees, like in Maddie's case, different work hours,
Mm-hmm.
whether or not in the middle of the mad rush
Mm-hmm.
where things are going to be more stressful.
Loud and crazy.
More stressful.
Yeah.
Trying to eliminate as much stress as possible is one way that companies can really help their employees that are suffering from PTSD.
Well, that's good. And I know there are some laws that have the accommodations. What are the typical laws?
The big one that is out there is the ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Okay.
that is basically out there so employers do not discriminate against their employees if they suffer from PTSD. Like in Maddie's case, her employer was trying to tell her not to come to work until things had settled down, and they were convinced that that wasn't the way to go, and they found other ways to keep her employed so they didn't, break any laws there.
Alright, well, I thank you both very much. This concludes our episode today of HR Today. Thank you guys again, and if you guys out there know anyone that suffers from PTSD, please keep an eye out, extend a helping hand. Hopefully this helped you learn a little bit more. So, thank you again, and have a good night.
Thank you for having us.